Well, Jim, talking a little further about things you watched, I know that there was something that we talked about on the experience a few days ago, the Kota Ibushi injury that aired. I was surprised they were going to air it, but they aired it and they did an angle. And there's things to talk about from AEW Collision.
Well, I I I can see why they aired it because they would have only had an hour and 40-minute show if they went 20 minutes before the fiasco came. But there were a couple of other things on Collision. Should I get into Ibushi or just gloss over these other things first? Because
Yeah, let's hear about the other things first, because the Ibushi thing was the big thing.
Sammy Guevara. I was zipping through the show because I had to, again, the fans had called our attention to two different things, and I wanted to see those. But I'm zipping through this, and I thought I saw it, and I backed up. They were doing a six-man tag. Now the male models, Minaj and Mansway, or whatever their names are, they're there wearing outlandish outfits, and poor John Morrison, Johnny Nitro, Johnny whatever however you know him, is in that mix. And Guevara was on the other team, and he gave one of the male models a swanton off the top rope. Did you see this or skip right through this to get to the other things?
I did not watch this match, no.
Okay, he landed square on this guy with every ounce of his fucking weight off the top rope. Just did a goddamn swan dive off the top rope and turned and landed flat of his back on top of this fucking guy. It was a complete shoot. He landed so hard, he sold it himself. It looked like it hurt Sammy. And 30 years ago, Sammy Guevara's ass would have been thoroughly fucking whipped in the locker room by that Mr. Model if he needed to pick up a goddamn brick to do it. I guess this stuff is just accepted now or tolerated, and they just go, oh, no problem, brother, don't worry. But no, if you can't do your shit any better than that, and I'm laying down there giving you an immobile target, and you squash the fuck out of me and give me a goddamn pop me out a hernia or give me broken ribs or a dislocated whatever, I will get up out of my sick bed and find something to hit you over the head with in the locker room. It's just ridiculous. What the fuck is the matter with these guys? On all sides, the giver and the taker. If Sammy Guevara ever does that move again, he's an unprofessional son of a bitch because he can't be trusted and he shouldn't trust himself.
What did the taker do wrong?
He laid there and let him do it. That's what the taker did wrong. And have we heard about Sammy being taken to the hospital afterwards?
I have not heard anything about Sammy going to the hospital, no.
That's what the taker did wrong. You heard the story with Dutch Mantel and Roberto Soto, haven't you?
Walking the dog, yes.
This wasn't even a goddamn big injury, but just for the newer folks, Dutch was young. He was in the Georgia territory. He's fucking green. And Roberto Soto didn't like his place on the card, didn't like he was being asked to work preliminary with this guy or whatever his problem was. And he was jerking him around and he was being stiff with him, taking advantage, veteran of a young guy. And I think he punched him one time, and Dutch said, but don't punch me like that again. He punched him like that again. So they had the match and they got back to in Savannah, Georgia. I believe it was Savannah. That the locker rooms are separate. And you had a kitchen in between. I've been there. And Dutch got back to the fucking heel locker room and realized that if he didn't do something, that none of the boys were going to respect him on the roster, but also he was just pissed. So he walked through that kitchen and picked up a broomstick and came into Babyface locker room and walked the dog on Roberto Soto, as he said, beat the shit out of him with that broomstick. Motherfucker, don't treat me. You don't lay there immobile and let some guy do some ridiculous bullshit and just land on the top of you without saying something about it. And I see it happen so much with these motherfuckers. I'm thinking nobody's saying anything. Anyway. And also, should we talk about FTR? And they've now just decided to just roll over and, how would Kenny say it? Do the splits for the phony play wrestlers. It was FTR and Megan Brain against Kevin Knight, Hong Kong Phooey, and Willow Nightingale. And I've got to be honest with you, it would be worth it to me to spend the night in jail to just punch Hong Kong Phooey in the face. It's just annoying to look at. He was the smallest human in the match. He was smaller than both the girls. Am I lying, Brian?
He's a 4th-degree black belt. He's the baddest man on the planet.
He's a 4th-degree fucking stain on the reputation of the wrestling industry.
I mean, at least FTR got to show us that it doesn't matter. Size, gender, doesn't matter. They'll sell.
Well, that's the thing. And by the way, I figured out Megan Brain. That's why I was calling her. Remember Megan Brain? Because she ain't with it. We figured out why she looks so good and she's there. And she went for a slam on Willow Nightingale. Willow dropped behind her to slam her. And when Willow dropped behind Megan to turn for the slam, Megan turned to her left. Jesus fucking Christ. If she ain't got that at this point, she might as well fold her tent. So then Megan threw Spitball around with a German suplex, etc. But she's a big bully and she's twice his size. So that got some sympathy on him. Then they tagged Dax and Willow in. And she started punching and chopping him and backed him up into the corner. Cash comes over and grabs her. She turns around. She hammers him back to the other corner. And then she turned around and beat up Dax and enziguri'd him and spine-bustered him and got a 2 count. And then she and Dax started doing a wrestling spot, back and forth. And Megan nailed Willow and she got hit the ropes and Dax schoolboyed her, pulled the trunks, and got a 2 count. He couldn't hold the girl down after she'd been hit with a schoolboy. He's a grown man, and he's pulling the trunks. 2 count. And then the girls did some shit, and the heels won. And look, Spitball, who cares? He's not a serious professional wrestler. And he's smaller than they are to begin with. So let him fill the modern day manager spot with the heel manager is the only male figure in wrestling that a girl can beat up. But Dax and Cash, at least until fairly recently, were trying to be taken as serious wrestlers, weren't they, Brian? Top guys, shit like that.
That's right.
So what are they fucking doing? I can understand the slap for the big pop when the heel's rocking and rolling and turns into the girl slap. Oh my God. Or the guy's beat up and he staggers into a drop kick or whatever. Or as I said, the heel manager guy gets beat by the girl babyface every time. But you can't seriously present a person who claims to be a serious professional wrestler competing on a competitive level playing field with the girl in the no. What the fuck is the matter with these competitive spots and 2 counts?
I think they realized it was a lot easier to just go with the flow at some point, and that's what they've done. And that's why they are where they are right now, and that's why the fans treat them the way they do right now. And this is maybe a symptom. This is not necessarily the actual thing that causes everything, but Yeah, I mean, and beyond this match and FTR, we're seeing a lot more of this men against women thing on national TV, and I don't like it. And, again, I don't even think there's a demand for it. That's too big, so I don't even understand why they're doing it.
Well, and you can tell they're feeling it out because it's choreographed so obviously to begin with, where the guy never strikes the woman. The woman can strike the man can't strike the woman. The guy can block the woman's kick and spin her around and do the do-si-do and swing your partner here and there, grab him in the fucking crotch and spit in his hair, whatever the fuck. But they're trying to do more and more to see if they get any blowback so that they can. This is another one of these indie wrestling outlaw show fantasies that they do where guys and girls have, regardless of size difference or the obvious difference, have these competitive matches where they do a bunch of finishes and nobody kicks out. And the girls especially enjoy being, catered to like they're the physical equals of it because everybody knows it's all phony bullshit. So the girls get to have a good time. It's just so indie and outlaw and unseemly and in poor taste and etc. So this is what AEW is trying to go for. And because they're trying to outdo, they had a mixed tag match in the WWE. You may have heard about a few weeks ago that drew more interest than almost any world championship match this year. You can have the mixed tag when you're carefully controlling what the girls do to the guys and vice versa when there's a personal issue involved like there was. Just making the matches because one, with the proper build, the proper personalities, and the proper issue, Drew is just outlaw indie mark fucking booking.
I'd like to see Brock Lesnar versus Nia Jax if we're going to go down this road.
What do you want to hurt Brock for now that he's just come back?
That's the big test. How stiff will she be with Brock?
Jesus
How clumsy will she be with Brock?
Well, we'll never know because Brock wouldn't do it because he knows what the fuck he's doing.
But there we are, though. I mean, I think that's a part of the issue. These intergender matches, these are something that, if you remember the beginning of AEW, there was a hard push. Joey Ryan on the Indies was doing intergender stuff. It was all about, what's wrong with doing this stuff? People like it. No one liked it. A small crowd in a small room got a chuckle out of it. There was no real demand for it. And now, I think maybe more because the wrestlers want to do it, it's being shoved down our throats on every show, it seems like.
And they'll eventually go too far on this one and cross the line of some kind of taste and get a nasty letter and back up on it or whatever. But it's just, again, it's more encouragement for people to just laugh at wrestling, not take anything seriously. I'm not even talking about real. I'm talking about seriously, like you would an action adventure show. This is a goddamn sketch comedy. And they're just concerned with making people laugh. You know who ain't laughing, don't you, Brian? Kota Ibushi is not laughing because he's got a broken fucking leg. Arrgh. I not only watched the incident, but I watched the whole match leading up to it to try to get some kind of idea of what in the world. Again, with this guy, I'm not trying to blame Ibushi all the way. It definitely was in some respect, depending on how you want to determine the word fault. It wasn't Josh Alexander's fault. He's completely free of blame. Now, how you describe blame or fault depends on Ibushi too, because was he knocked goofy by the bump that he took improperly just moments before? Was he blown up because he looked like his body had completely shut down? Was he impaired in some fashion, which, you can't tell with some guys, but from the expression he had on his face for most of the time through the match before he could have been hurt in any way, he didn't really look like he was in the moment. I don't know why he did what he did, but it wasn't Josh Alexander's fault. Let's put it that way. Did you watch the whole match?
I did watch the match, including the picture-in-picture, because during picture-in-picture, he was selling his leg. So then immediately I start thinking, I got to watch what happens. Is that the same leg that breaks? But one thing didn't have anything to do with the other.
Well, from the start of the thing, again, I talk about Okada being so lazy and taking every shortcut and being so boring and a monotone expression on his face, etc. Ibushi doesn't give the impression that he's not trying like Okada does, and he does open up with some shit every once in a while, but through the whole match, maybe it's just him. He has no expression on his face. There's no urgency to anything he's doing. There's no aura to him. He's just a guy. And again, especially for the first part of this thing, Josh Alexander was trying. He's got facial reactions. He can work, at least as far as doing moves. He looks like an athlete. He was trying to be the heel here by stalling and working to people and bailing out or whatever. But in the middle of it, Ibushi was doing nothing. They locked up and did nothing. Ibushi hit him with a kick and he bumped and rolled out. Alexander, when he stopped him, he got basic heat, a headlock, a tackle. After about 3 minutes in, Ibushi threw a drop kick. And then he did a spot show dive to the floor. You know what? A spot show dive is what the guys, when dives started to become more common in 20 years ago or whatever, guys in the locker room, they would say, I'll hit you with a spot show dive. It's a thing where you grab the top rope and kind of vault over it and go sideways, and the guy catches you and your feet are under you and you go easily to the ground. That's the safest kind of dive over the top. That's called a spot show dive. That's what they would do. If we got to dive, we'll do it that way. And Ibushi did one of those and got up and shook hands with the fans while never really changing his facial expression. And then Alexander hit him with a DDT on the floor. Easy, took care of him. And they went to the break. Again, Alexander was, when he would throw a strike or manhandle the guy, it's like he was holding a Fabergé egg. I don't want to hit him too hard. Back from the break, it was basic heat. He had no bumps per se. Ibushi was selling like he was in a trance. There was no oomph. There's the same blank face. And then suddenly, he hit a power slam and a little back and forth and a German suplex, and then both of them later and sold again. Sold again. Ibushi, he'll do just enough. Then he got up, he did some kicks, and they tried to do some kung fu movie shit. And Ibushi actually did the standing moonsault thing. But the first big bump for Ibushi was Alexander picked him up and gave him a spinny thing for a 2 count. And then I think there was another Ibushi did a kick and a suplex and the Meteora thing on the ground, 2 count. And then Alexander did some kind of deal where he picked him up and he slammed him on the apron, and that looked deadly. What a fucking bump. But then they continue on, and that's when Alexander comes off the ropes and gives Ibushi a big clothesline. And Ibushi tries to do the deal where he flips over, and he landed on his fucking head. And if you go back and look at this in slow motion, it's kind of like a head and shoulder thing. I mean, if you said this guy has a broken neck and he'll never feel anything from the waist down again from this bump, you'd believe it. You'd buy it. But then they continued on. And Ibushi had the same vacant stare that he'd had through the whole match, but I think it was worse. And he looked dazed, but he always looks dazed. He looks like he's not with what he's doing. Or was he blown up by this point? I don't know. But that's when Alexander picks him up and sits him on the top turnbuckle. Now, if he was knocked goofy, and knocked out or dazed or in anything, then he needed to tell somebody, right? You don't just continue, okay, you're putting me up on the top turnbuckle. I have no idea where I am. I'm not conscious. I'm going to weakly help you here. Say something to somebody, one would think. But Alexander puts him up on the top buckle, puts Ibushi's legs outside the ropes, chops him. Ibushi kind of sells it, no better or worse than he normally does. He's still got the blank face. And Alexander turns his back and gets up on the buckles like he's got his back to Ibushi, who's sitting on the top rope. And Alexander is going to pick up Ibushi over his shoulders in a fireman's carry. Which, number one, all this shit where they do this shit on the corners, it looks so phony and stupid. And nobody's ever trying to get away when they could get away easily. And I don't know why they're doing it to begin with. But Alexander didn't just make this up on a spur of the moment and like, I'll do this. They had to have worked this out. So Ibushi had to know, or had at least been told what he was going to try to do here. So as he's trying to pick him up in the fireman's carry, he gets Ibushi's left arm over his shoulder, does Alexander. But Alexander can't get his own left arm under Ibushi's crotch because Ibushi is just sitting there on the turnbuckle. His feet are on the second buckle. He could just raise up 6 inches. I mean, it's not like that would look any phonier than anything else that's ever done in these situations. But it's like he wasn't cooperating or didn't even really know what Alexander was trying to do. He was just there and not either trying to get away or block it or help it, anything. And Alexander finally kind of jerked a little bit and got under him and shrugged him up on his shoulders. But since Ibushi didn't help him, and really, once that he was up on the shoulders, Ibushi, again, was just a sack of wheat. Just, he wasn't bracing on anything. Ibushi's weight was too far backwards for Alexander, who was sitting on the top turnbuckle also now, to be able to fucking hold. He just fell straight backwards. But because Alexander's feet were on the second rope and his ass was on the buckle, when he fell backwards, it put him upside down, and he was able to hang for a second and then control his fall better. But when he went over backwards with Ibushi was headed face first toward the floor in a splash position. And the rail was underneath his face. So he reached out and grabbed the rail to block his face, and his legs spun underneath him, and his right thigh took the centrifugal force of the spin underneath him, and it looked like the lower half of his leg just flipped the fuck around in a very bad fashion. So I think he broke his thigh. Is that what the femur is? Or do you know from...
I'm not sure.
How long did you spend in medical school?
Not too long. Hold on. Femur. It is the bone of the thigh or upper hind limb, articulating at the hip and the knee.
That's what he was holding his thigh, but you can see that the lower part of his leg from the knee down on the replay, it didn't get caught under him. It flapped grotesquely when the rest of him fell on his right upper leg. And one other thing, to be honest, that adds to Ibushi dragging this whole thing down was that when Alexander was trying to get him up, when they showed the replay from the other angle, Ibushi's right heel was under the top turnbuckle. So as Alexander tried to pick him up, there was something that was actively pulling him downward right before the collapse came. So
what were they even trying to do?
He was going to give him probably some kind of attitude adjustment or Death Valley driver thing off the ropes or who knows what.
Because he just like slipped on his own. It wasn't like Josh Alexander. Like it kind of felt like if you watched, I watched it a few times, like Ibushi just started going. And Josh Alexander.
That's because he wasn't helping. He wasn't helping at all. He was not, whatever move they had agreed to. Once that Alexander got up there, was trying to pick him up, Ibushi wasn't in the right place. He didn't give Alexander a place in between his legs to thread Alexander's left arm through so he could pick him up easily. He had feet on the turnbuckle when he was sitting there, but once when Alexander shrugged him up, his feet were straight out. His hands were really not braced on anything. And he wasn't, I mean, look at his face. When he was picked up in that position after a struggle, his facial expression didn't change. Ibushi's. That's why I'm saying it was like he was neither trying to block it nor cooperate with it. He was just there when Alexander was trying to do what he was trying to do, and he couldn't get the weight distributed right, and off they went. But nobody could have done that with Ibushi in that position and in doing the things that he wasn't doing. So I don't know what. That's why did he knock himself out on the clothesline beforehand? Well, in that case, shouldn't he tell somebody, don't put me up on the top rope, I can't fucking see? Or who are you? Where are we? What?
Well, Jim, and that wasn't really the end of it. There was also a post-match, which they, by hook or by crook.
Well, no, it gets better. It gets better. Because now the fucking guy has taken, and the place popped. Whoa! He took a dive face first. He lands. He's selling the leg. The referee's down there. The referee counts it out, makes it a count out. And Don Callis gets in the ring with the microphone and says, I've got something important to say. This is what happens when you mess with the Don Callis family. And then Mark Davis comes out. Remember him, the guy from Australia with the big white ass. He's been gone, 6 months? When he came back, he was only back for 3 weeks. And he'd been gone for a year and a half.
That's right.
Then he came back for 3 weeks, and he's gone for 6 months. He started choking and punching the guy with the broken leg. This guy's laying on the floor. He just broken his fucking leg, and Davis's big fat ass is on him, choking him and punching him. So fucking then Kenny comes out with a trash can, apropos for this segment, and beats up everybody. And so again, I don't know that I've ever. When's the last time you heard of a wrestler breaking their thigh bone instead of the lower part of the leg?
When was the last time you heard of a wrestler breaking both of their ankles in the same match?
Well, no, but never. But a legitimate question. I would love for any of the historians out there in the audience famous broken legs, Larry Hennig, back in the 60s when they were on top, or early 70s in the AWA. But that, Wahoo one time, bro, it was always the lower leg. I didn't know you could do anything. Well, they invent new shit to do to hurt themselves. But yeah, I don't know if this guy was not knocked goofy by the clothesline. Really, the whole match, he looked off. He looked like he was confused by where he was. I don't know if he's got issues or if he's just not that bright. I don't know what the fuck's going on. But it was like trying to wrestle a goddamn guy in a hypnotic trance.
And again, the guy's hurt, clearly badly. They still did the angle. It's just amazing because the angle was so stupid to begin with. Omega looks really bad. Omega looks like his head looks like Huggle in the movie Labyrinth. Just this giant fucking head now. And he's not moving or looking like he should be there either right now. What a train wreck. What a train wreck. What a train wreck the entire Ibushi run. Jeez.
In 2 years. Oh, and they said, by the way, this was Ibushi's 4th AEW match this year. They just came back, a couple months ago. So he got signed at least 2 years ago. But let's say a year and a half ago. He was off for over a year. He comes back. He has 4 matches. He breaks his leg. Does that mean he's going to have like 5 matches on a 2-year contract?
Well, maybe Tony, because of the time off, will keep extending him. It'll turn into like a 20-year contract.
I don't think Ibushi's going to live long enough to serve his contract out.
Hey, is that thing real? I know you retweeted it, so you must have seen it too. Brian Solomon tweeted out an alleged note from Tony Khan to Kota Ibushi, a handwritten note. Did you see that?
Yes, I retweeted it because it just popped up on my feed as I was waiting around for you. And he said the decline of Western civilization. It was this nice handwritten letter, literally done from Bobby Bruns to Jack Pfeffer in 1951 or whatever. And then looked like a ransom note that Tony Khan had posted, I guess, on Twitter or whatever, a picture of a note he wrote. Oh, Kota Ibushi, we respect you. Get well soon. Like a kid with crayons.
Well, again, considering the style that he wrestled, I don't know how much more there could possibly... It already looked like there wasn't much left in the tank. I don't know how much more anyone could hope to ever see from Kota Ibushi in a ring again.
I'm saying there's something wrong with his cognitive ability because he looked like a person facially walking through that thing. He looked like Terry Gordy, unfortunately.
But I always think he looks like
last years of Terry Gordy's life after he was in the coma.
I've always thought that he walked around with that look on his face. It wasn't just because of a bump here in this match. It's kind of like, remember that episode of The Twilight Zone with the android boxers? Where they look almost human enough, but clearly they're not.
Well, I don't want to be in the goddamn ring giving my body to an android boxer who looks like he's on Neptune.
Well, Jim, I guess the point is Kota Ibushi's going to have a lot of time on his hands. And also maybe
yes, he is.
Time to think about a new thing to do. Maybe he can... maybe he could sell a book of facial expressions to people out there wanting to learn a correspondence course on professional wrestling.
A new line of work is what you're saying that he needs. He needs to somehow get out of the wrestling business, do less of that, and do more of anything else. You know, folks, if you've got an idea, a dream, an aspiration, you're going to need some perspiration, but you're also going to need help in achieving your dreams and your business goals and your all of you want to retire out there to an island of the South Pacific with a number of strippers of the various sex that you would prefer, whether you're a man, a woman, or whatever the case may be. You want that for yourself, but first, the problem is you got to make the money. That's where you need help, and that's where Shopify comes in. Because, Brian, I'll have you know that there was a time where I decided to start on my second $1 million. I gave up on the first $1 million. It was too difficult. But I had to do it myself. They didn't have Shopify around. Now, there's no excuse for anybody not being a multi-gazillionaire like Nick Khan and Tony Khan and Raka Khan and Shaka Khan and all the other cons out there. I've noted that cons generally make more money than non-cons. That's the sound of money being made, and the folks at Shopify are ready to help you achieve your dreams, folks, and keep you out of the wrestling business. They're the commerce platform behind 10% of all e-commerce in the United States, and the other 90% are lagging behind. Shopify gives you the leg up from day one, hundreds of beautiful, ready-to-go templates to express your brand style, ready-to-go websites, built-in marketing and email tools, and the iconic purple Shop Pay button, Brian, that people can press if they want to shop and pay. That's how that works. And then you make money. When people shop and then pay, you, meaning the royal you out there, make money. Cha-ching. So, folks, if you want to see less carts being abandoned and more money coming into your pockets for that eventual time where you're going to just live on a mountain of cocaine in Bolivia somewhere, it's time for you to head over to Shopify, shopify.com/JCE, and you can sign up for a $1 a month trial period and start selling today. Well, it's later in the day, maybe first thing in the morning, but quick. Tagada! $1 a month trial period, shopify.com/JCE. They know what's good for you. If you know what's good for you, you'll be good to them and they'll be good to you. And then we'll all be good. Shopify.com/JCE. Cha-ching.
That's right.